When Team Liquid and Gen.G faced off in the group stage, Volskaya Foundry went to Gen.G despite Team Liquid picking it. It's a place where they can feel comfortable to be able to get team fights, start that snowball, but it didn't work out for them on this map. How scared are we for our current world champion, Dreadnought?
I don't honestly know. That game started so exactly as you would expect, especially control point A, once you saw Rich able to get away, and then you see the counter engage, and suddenly you're like, okay, this is the full level lead, here's the 2-level lead, and here's the 3. And the moments of recovery from Liquid were the picks onto the backliners. We saw Sake get caught multiple times, Hanzo was having a hard time there for Rich, and the reset at the very end on the Junkrat. And all those characters are the win conditions for Liquid, but I feel like if I am Gen.G, I can go, guys, we got a little hyphy, all right? All right, bring it back here, calm down, and we likely are going to be a little bit more calculated and still obtain those early game control like we saw in Volskaya.
Well, Gen.G has the choice of Battleground or first pick. Let's see what they choose. Trick, what were you wanting to
No,
add to
yeah,
that?
I completely agree with that there. I think you look at Gen.G and you say, you know what? We screwed up. It happens. It's a game 1. It's the beauty of a best-of-5 series, right? You're allowed to have a couple of moments say, let's clean this up and play better. I think Gen.G is still probably the better team today. But with that being said, Team Liquid can also make sure the early game is much more fluid.
I can also tell you that Liquid is going to look at this and it's like, guys, let's forget about game 1 that didn't happen, take the next map. They're not going to get overconfident or anything just because they won a map. They know that they need a lot more than only make one big comeback happen. So we have Towers of Doom chosen. It's again the map choice of Liquid. This is a battleground where they played a lot of different strategies. We've seen everything here in Europe, starting with Abathar, the Vikings. You've seen Simuro plays here. This is a map where in Europe we've even seen the Valera Zeratul set up. So this could become a little bit crazy, and it's definitely one of the maps where Liquid very much feels at home, very similar to Volskaya.
They usually have a trend here of making sure to play for the late game. They are willing to give up a couple ultras in the early game to find that half-level lead, full-level lead. Eternal really likes shot calling the idea of getting a bell tower taken in the top left corner, or even take some experience off their opponent. So I'm expecting Team Liquid to play for that late game.
But I would argue when you're looking for the late game on Towers of Doom versus the late game of Volskaya Foundry, it does not add up the exact same.
Yeah.
Yes, you might be able to recover, but your ability to win a team fight and then suddenly go, this game is ours on any other battleground is a very realistic option, like on Volskaya. But here, it's like, well, how many bell towers can I convert? Sometimes that answer is just kind of one and maybe an extra shot in the downtime. Yes, it gains control in the long run, but it kind of brings back that you have to be able to beat Gen.G twice in a fight, and this map endorses that philosophy very heavily.
It's a big Dehaka map for Team Liquid as well. They love to run Eternal on Dehaka on this map, and he had great engagement in the past. You can already show the respect that Gen.G has, especially for Norok here with the Deckard Cain ban coming in. We have Sport BDs, Garrosh being banned out, so you can see Deckard Cain taken away. So really trying to limit some of the comfort picks that Liquid usually resorts to.
Well, one of those comfort picks would be if Deckard's gone, if Tyranda's gone, Malfurion. I'm wondering if they will be willing to pick Malfurion this high, or if they will subject themselves to another support choke. Didn't work out for them versus Heroes Hearts Esports when they had White Mane.
I think if not having the Garrosh is going to limit the Malfurion viability drastically. They're going to be going into the Diablo route here, but just mainly because Garrosh and Malfurion have that soft synergy and the fact that, you know, the trickle in healing is not going to remove a large portion of the armor and make sure you get maximum value out of his passive there. But denying the Raynor, I think, is a very smart play coming out from Liquid here in their 1-2 to make sure that that does not go over the reset.
I couldn't agree more. Like, I've been talking all week in the opening week too about how high that Raynor priority is for any Korean team, but even more so for Gen.G. And Team Liquid immediately saying, okay, we're going to take that for ourselves is fantastic here. They have the Diablo with it, they have that engage potential. So I'm very, very happy with the first rotation of Liquid in the draft.
And this is one thing that we didn't get in the last game that's a bit more to the same priority that we expected from Gen.G coming into the series, or at least I did. The high Tyrande, standard for a lot of teams at this tournament, but then that Yrel, that was something missing in the 2-3 from Gen.G on the last Battleground that I expect to see from them. Yes, the Leo in the back end I feel like helped when it came to the wave clear recovery and what they needed, but this is more the play style and the comforts here of Gen.G in this draft.
And they equip themselves in a position that if Team Liquid does go for that Dehaka later on, Yrel can match that. She brings out the wave clear, but also gives that double soaking too. She can move to the Divine Steed if need be as well. And of course, the armor is always wonderful for that main front line that we're getting. And I'm assuming we might actually see a Nubrak later on here for Gen.G to really force these fights.
I think that's very, very realistic here, and being able to deny the Jaina, even though, yes, you have natural spell armor, I would argue Jaina is still one of the few mages that can just burst down in a new Barak if you miss that burrow charge, or even if you just don't get the kill in the burrow charge impale combo, you're going to be dealing with a lot of Blizzard there.
It's the second time that they banned Jaina on the third ban position, and keep in mind how that victory for Team Liquid in the group stage against Gen.G actually worked out. That severely hinged on Jaina and Hazops' play there. So this is now a situation where Gen.G is just saying, if we get that free ban against Jaina, we're going to take it every time.
Along with the Anub, do we expect a Li Ming here then to finish out the draft? It's something that Gen.G really likes here, then they would be able to have a Li Ming and Hanzo. That's basically Reset and Rich in a nutshell.
I think it's very, very likely, but this is one of those moments where I go, I feel like that's Korea holding on to kill potential and reset compositions far too long in macro-oriented places. And then look at this, a good old mix-up there, avoiding that macro concern that I was having, finding ways to compensate with the Tyrael and the Sergeant Hammer. But I will say, I think it's a lot harder to execute this playstyle and that kind of mismatch between the Hammer and Tyrande playstyles for this draft of Gen.G.
But with Hammer comes Tyrael for Gen.G. Last pick for Team Liquid, waiting on Nurak, and it still will be Malfurion.
When you're looking again as a triple frontline setup, it's something that we kind of expected a little bit, maybe even on the last map when they then made a different choice when it came to more damage. But that triple melee lineup is something that is very much Team Liquid. It has been their identity for a long time in Phase 2, and Tyrael with the Sanctification plays very well into that. Outside of the Sanctification, though, you are going to have some trouble. You have a Leoric with CC, you have an Arthas there, you have a Thrall, so there's a lot of engage potential that we now see for Liquid where they can try and follow it up with a quick kill. I mean, even the Malfurion laying down the roots here, so they have a lot of CC to stack.
Yeah, how's Hasu's flanks? Because I see an Arthas and a Thrall, and I see a Sergeant Hammer on their side, and I get excited.
The flank's going to be very important. I mean, obviously, when you're running a Jaina, you have that flank style that you typically go for, so Hasu is very capable of pulling that off. But the Sun Rings are really going to be key here. They got to land on point. You got to make sure you split somebody out, and then Diablo get that follow-up to get a kill. If that doesn't happen, I see Gen.G bouncing back and really destroying the team fight.
Yeah, and one person that I'm going to be looking at for Gen.G because of all the crowd control, though yes, Sanctification is amazing into the Malfurion, the Arthas, and the Diablo, and debatably the Thrall, but it's a little bit harder of a matchup. All four of them on the same roster, not enough Sanctification in the world to be able to deal with that. So the guy who has to not only keep the team alive, but break everything up, is Kyocha. He's going to be giving over the armor, and more importantly, when he throws that hammer, he needs to make sure that the initiation is never on the same page from Team Liquid. Half of them come in, Kyocha goes, half of you go right back out.
Yeah.
Team Liquid already up 1-0 against our current world champions. Can they make it a 2-0 and put us on match point? Let's find out.
That's right. Team Liquid up 1-0 over Gen.G. But Gen.G, they pull out the big boys. Hammer coming out for them.
Yeah, the thing is, though, they are now behind. That doesn't happen too often to them, especially when we're talking about offline tournaments. And right now, with them identifying already before the group stage started that Team Liquid is one of the teams they're worried about, you have to ask yourself, is there a little bit of doubt in the back of their heads at this point? Or do they just shrug off that last loss and say, like, yeah, that's fine, we made a mistake? But if there's that little tiny voice...
There has to be a little bit of doubt, because they talked about it, as you mentioned, right before we started this entire tournament. They went 1-1 in the group stages against them, and now they're down 0-1. There's got to be something there for Gen.G. But here on the left side, in the blue, Kyocha on Yrel, Reset on Hanzo, Rich on Hammer, Tist on Tyrael, and Sake on Tyrande. It's Gen.G!
And over to the right. With a lead in the series, Billy on Diablo for the red team. Eternal again for the second time in a row on Arthas. Arcana on the auto attack with Jimrena. Norok on Malfurion and Hazovs on Thrall. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Team Liquid!
I'm very curious what the game plan is around the Sapper camps for both these teams. When it comes to Europe, Sapper camps are always important. You usually want to grab those. Typically, they invade come in, but Tyrael isn't the best invading, especially early game, when it comes to trying to force those situations, especially with the Diablo on the opposing side. So Team Liquid should be able to control the Sapper camps. Can Gen.G clear them enough?
They definitely should have a really good shot there, especially with the dominance here through that super hit point heavy front line. Once that Billy has stacks together. Talking about Billy, immediately trying to make a bit of a play here to put the damage onto Rich, flipping over into the roots of Norok, and Arcana with a follow-up damage. We're going to see a lot of that, trying to home in here. I feel you have to shift targets later on a bit, since Rich is going to pick up those siege tactics on level 4. But if you can at any point go onto Tyrande, for example, that would be a priority target.
I mean, to just switch targets just in general because of the armor available for Sergeant Hammer. Being able to pop that in the middle of the fight. I mean, that's why Rich survived there. He got a heal from Tyrande and took nearly a quarter damage tops there from Team Liquid. But it is still a combo that is scary, one that we will see often from them. Gen.G automatically rotating up here to the left side, looking at that Sapper camp.
With all the CC that we've been talking about earlier, I really like that we have the immediate Celestial Attunement for Tyrande here as a level 1, so that's going to help to at least mitigate some of that pressure that Team Liquid is able to put out. Right now, Cam's taken early on. It's still interesting to me that we do not see Tehaka for Liquid, but they want to have a more beefy frontline right now, and that Arthas allows for them to force a lot of fights and really make great plays here. But it's going away a little bit from what they prioritized in the past, where they're more so worried about macro game and love to keep Eternal up at the top side.
Part of it might be those buffs that Arthas got, just feeling a little bit more tanky. Kyocha, though, rotating all the way from that top lane. Both Arthas and Thrall are currently soaking right now, while Gen.G is grouping up as 5 early here, trying to make sure those sappers are able to push forward and at least break down that turret wall.
I mean, let's face it, at this point, my eye is on Gen.G. How to react they after the last game. Already putting in the pressure here, trying to siege up with Rich. It's about the bottom lane control. That's what they're looking for right now. Drop that bell tower, try to establish control, and then run the camps.
They get that wall open, which means later on, Sergeant Hammer can start to work on that fort. Kyocha was slowed down on rotation to the top left, though, so Team Liquid takes an experienced lead. Already at 4 and nearly 3/4, while Gen.G has just hit level 4.
And that's always a cool move. If you have someone double soaking lanes and you can interrupt him while he's trying to make the rotation from one to another, you can make sure that they're not grabbing all of the experience as your own wave pushes into their tower. And that's exactly what we saw here. This is why Liquid is now slightly ahead in XP. If they can repeat that play 1 or 2 times, that would be fantastic for them and set themselves ahead here.
Tradition for them. Team Liquid always wanting to build for that late game. I mean, if they see something they do not like when it comes to this ultra phase, they are very comfortable giving up one of the ultras and giving 2 over to their opponents. I want to see how Gen.G is going to be stationing up. They actually still have 4 here in the bottom as Sake sets up and starts to work on that ultra. At the same time, Kyocha and the top left already channeling.
Arcana now, of course, in a very different position. He's still the damage healer, but he doesn't have the mobility.
Reset.
Talking mobility, Reset barely able to move out as he's the prime target for Liquid in this last skirmish.
I don't know what it is about Korean Hanzos, but they just get away with a sliver of health
It's insane,
every
right?
single time. They just respawn so quickly, and that's so hard to do against a Diablo, so gotta give kudos over to Reset there.
It's amazing to me how good Gen.G is and how well they understand when they need to move out of a fight. At this point, Billy is trying to force them into that battle again, but Tist is playing attention. There's still one ult on the map, but we still see Urel making those rotations topside, and that forces the reaction out of Eternal, who with Arthas is now moving into the middle to grab the experience.
Yeah, both of our Southerners right now are trying to make it lopsided for our teams, but Team Liquid is responding now as Eternal rotates the top. It's back to a 4v4, but Rich is loving this 4v4. Sergeant Hammer loves to have that number be equal between opponents. Sake already here too, also to back him up when Sportbilly tries to go for that engage.
Hand of Freedom, also chosen as the level 4 talent for Urel, incredibly important. We talked CC and we mentioned the Celestial Attunement, but even the adjustment on Urel, giving that movement speed and removing those roots, highly important here to enable plays, maybe an escape as well. So already a lot of defensive tools. And if you think about it, there's just so many layers for Gen.G now. They have a draft that can be extremely dangerous, but it's also to an extent squishy, so you need to be on point. And there is Liquid looking to find a mistake, and they find it. They take down Tyrael as Gen.G just for one moment does not have an answer.
And Sportbilly once more, he goes in for Rich, but immediately we have the armor coming out. Sportbilly fine, but Reset might be in trouble. No, he gets away with the natural agility, but that's what Tyrael is in a nutshell, especially in the early game. If he does not have that Eldrune available, that mobility, he's going to get picked off. Team Liquid finds that kill, and because of it, they open up the wall on the bottom lane.
You see the roots on the ground, and you know that Billy wants to go for it, but he's on half health, and then he just says, guys, this is a bit too risky. Let's not go in here. Currently, Diablo is sitting at 89 souls, so already extremely tanky here, as Liquid has a slightly inexperience, but is a bit behind when it comes to hit points on the core.
Well, we're talking about that combo of going for a Diablo to engage into a root. You also have to have that added layer of Thrall with that Ancestral Wrath coming in there, helping you with that burst. You don't have to put on a tank. You can put on anyone there and help him find that one target and blowing it up with a Rainer, peppering afterwards. Usually you'll find those kills.
And talking about Hazorps and his Thrall, the Echo of Elements completed as the level 1 talent. We've seen adjustments with Crash Lightning, especially on Battlefield of Eternity, of course, but he is still running with that added wave clear and poke potential that they have now. Engage, attempt again onto Hammer, but Rich paying attention and not falling for this.
Really enjoying these adjustments from Urel Divine Steed at level 7 to match this, in fact, even maybe take a lead when it comes to that wave clear and pushing your opponent then. And that's actually gotten Gen.G into a spot where they even on experience. Rich gets comboed here and actually gets hit with a root. Here comes the Wolf as well. Rich trying to escape. He's able to get out, but Team Liquid showing off this kill potential they have.
Oh yeah, and they're trying to execute Hanzo right now, and there comes the kill. As once again, we're seeing Hanzo with the damage output. Fantastic play by Gen.G. The initiation from Liquid, not quite as successful. Celestial Attunement comes out every time. The attempt to go for Hammer, but Gen.G turning it around and dropping the Wachi.
I mean, we talked about it in the draft. If Gen.G is ever engaged upon and they're able to stop that full wall from Team Liquid coming forward, they can turn around and get those kills. That's exactly what happened there to Hasawab. We are moving towards that level 10. Gonna be pivotal here for Gen.G, looking for more blow up, but also the Sanification finally coming online.
I mean, you could see the MO of Liquid. They were going for Hammer multiple times. They're trying to bait out the cooldown of the siege tactics first. Once you have that in position, you can try and make a second attempt. But there's always Tyrande to consider as well. And Gen.G played extremely well around it. So Liquid does not only not get the kill, they also lose one. But we have heroic abilities about to come online, and this is really, as you said, where a lot of this is going to happen. Even in the case of Hyperion now, we're not seeing the Raiders. There's no interrupt, which we see from the Koreans so often. Instead, it's that siege and teamfight potential that Liquid is looking for.
Pick a location and find it. Also, if they're able to get kills, they can go straight for a bell tower afterwards, and opening the map is so important on Tower of Doom. Team Liquid sitting back and playing safe. The look in the middle, Thrall actually kiting away from Urel while Rich is dealing with Sport Billy right now.
They're trying to go for it once again. A good stun attempt here by Tyrande. Thrall not picking his heroic ability either. With a Hyperion in your play, you can definitely make arguments to go into Earthquake here. But of course, Sundering would also be fantastic for the flanks. It is Earthquake as we're seeing them move onto Kyoja. He is low, but he does not fall.
Wow, doesn't pull the Ardent Defender either. Reset on the back, though, going for a bit of a flank here, dropping the Scare Arrow. Is going to be able to jump away thanks to that natural agility, but Rich still holding firm. Team Liquid just not able to break this four-man of Gen.G.
But at the same time, Nuro just with a play right there. You see the arrow coming from the side, hitting hard, and then the Nature's Cure comes out and immediately drops the Tranquility. So Nuro making sure that this attempt by Gen.G to flank and destroy them did not work out.
But Gen.G at the same time had Reset go straight to the middle lane. He's soaking up that experience. They're starting to take a lead in the experience. There is that ultra up and ready to go. Team Liquid will start the channel, but a last-second Tyrande out comes in and kisses Arcaner.
Yeah, Sport Billy is now the only one who could have soaked that one, but it didn't quite happen. But there's still a fight going on at the bottom, because right now there's both of these altars still on the map, and Liquid is moving in to see if they can maybe even get a kill here. Once again, Rich is the target, has to pop everything to move away. Eternal trying to walk down Kyoja. He has the fight explodes, engage again, but Arthas falls first. Gen.G with the coordination.
Army of the Dead way too late. The Lunar Flare comes with the 100 mark, and that's a kill, and Gen.G has now taken a 5v4. Team Liquid has to back away. Kyoja looking for the altar on the bottom, and he will begin the channel. Gen.G can make a play for both these now, and Rich is actually keeping up with the push in the bottom lane, just moving forward, clearing out waves, and keeping Team Liquid back.
These blow-ups against Eternal are fantastic, but once again, another target falling here. It might be a triple, as after Reyna, Diablo is the next target of Gen.G. The body blocks are great, and here comes the displacement. Down he goes. It's a triple as we see Gen.G taking Diablo down.
Gen.G is destroying this team fight. First off, they get on top of Reyna and blow him up with the Dragon's Arrow and the damage from Sergeant Hammer, and then Urel comes in with a big knockback, put Diablo into a corner, and reset his souls.
Team Liquid a bit too hesitant to really flip the switch in the last fight. We never saw commitments to Earthquake or the Hyperion. They were dancing around, waiting for an opportunity, and then Eternal just gets blown up. The stuns are there, the Hunter's Mark is on point, and all the damage of Hammer, and Hunter just collapses onto the target. But here comes Liquid. They're looking for a kill. Lightning Breath even be used, but immediately the response from Tyrael.
10 Gates gets these two. Eternal and Army of the Dead, though, has to back away and get healed up from Nero. At the same time, Hasselhoff is going in and trying to find those combos.
Rich!
Hammer and Trouble gets put against the wall, but Rich able to escape. The heals are coming in. The Hyperion not doing enough as Arthas is picked off.
Rich surviving again, and that's another kill. 6 kills against 1 as Reyna falls once more. Arcana not strong enough this time to turn it around. Diablo dies too. Without the souls, Billy is just not tanky enough. And Gen.G dominant so far on game number 2.
Gen.G angry from game number 1, looking very composed in game number 2, having full map control, and also the Holy Ground Edition coming online, going to allow for them to be aggressive on those sapper camps and also continue to control and lock down targets like Arthas.
And you look at Tyrande, Saka has 13 stacks already on the Lunar Blaze. He is hitting home with these stuns, and you can tell every team fight how impactful that is. It threatens Arthas at the front. They always have the damage as a follow-up, and at the same time, Saka and also, of course, Urel with that Hand of Freedom on level 4, making sure that nobody is really threatened. The attempts to take Rich down, countless. But every time there's a response, there's an answer immediately, and there's just no way at this point for Team Liquid to really get that kill. They need 13 first, but if they cannot drop Rich, they will have problems in these fights.
Team Liquid may have to worry about getting kills here and trying to get that Bell Tower back. Gen.G grouping up all 5 here on the bottom lane. They want to try and get these sappers to push forward. They do not get any to move in, but Team Liquid is already bruised and battered. There's a root that comes out with a root afterwards, but Malfurion actually gets taken out.
Malfurion goes down in Eternal's low too. Here comes the arrow. They look for the kills, and they nearly get them again. As Arcana and Eternal barely escape past the gate.
Gen.G is shutting it down at Team Liquid, and the best part too is they can afford to get rid of Kyosha. He can go to the middle lane and top lane and just soak it out.
Eternal just nearly fell to Saka. The owl hits him full in the face, and Arthas nearly falls, barely able to once again move away here. But just look at experience. It's more or less a repetition of game number 1.
Gen.G
2 levels ahead already.
Showing why they're the best here. 2 ultras, 1 on the top left, 1 to the top right for both of our teams. Team Liquid in position to try and slow down someone rotating. They go straight in for Kyosha, but they're not going to be able to kill him off. Arcana put some damage in, but Tist is here for support.
What a great game so far by Gen.G. But Liquid, they have the resilience. They showcased it in game number 1. And it's never over until the fat lady sings. Already the channel on the right side here. Eternal gets the altar for them. It's a trade. And here comes the attempt to look for target. Lockdown is ready. Wolf follows. But it's not enough to actually threaten anyone on Gen.G.
Part of the issue too is that Diablo is so squishy right now. He doesn't have the souls from the death earlier. Nurok had to pop Tranquility just to keep him alive, and finally Team Liquid decides we can't fight this, we have to back away. Gen.G adds another 5 shots to the core. Down to 11, Team Liquid is on their shots.
33 points on the core against 11. 2 levels ahead and homing in on level 16 now. Gen.G looking for the talent advantage, and Eternal and the team just trying to make something happen here. They're going for the boss. They're saying, guys, fight us. We're ready. We want this 30-level fight. And Gen.G is willing to take it.
Holy Ground and Sanctification. Do you really want to do this, Team Liquid? Team Liquid controlling what they can. Diablo getting low, and Team Liquid just trying to force a fight.
You can tell that Liquid have to make a risk. Nature's Cure is keeping them alive for now. The arrow came out, immediately Thrall moving up to the plate, trying to see if he has to drop the Earthquake, but they can move away. Liquid is just in a position where they feel they have to take risks. They're so far behind. You said it best, Tyrael is there, but they still said, guys, we need to do something. Let's see if we can sneak that boss in. Maybe they don't check fast enough, and we can grab it.
You can really see the frustration for Team Liquid. Even Hyperion coming out there, not really needing that full fight. They are so worried about this team fight. Team Liquid also losing out on their sapper camp as Gen.G grabs 6 once again, stationing once again in the bottom lane, setting up for a little bit more focus and maybe a couple sappers to seep on through.
And you know, the attempt for the boss here was not only the idea, okay, let's try and take a few points off their core.
Yeah.
It's taking a win condition away from your opponent. There's a triple altar phase coming up. Now, if we are seeing 2-3 taken by your opponent, then the core, even more shots coming through right now. This is a disaster for Liquid. If 2 of these altars are being channeled by Gen.G now, then it is lights out already.
And there's still 3 more sappers coming.
Yes.
Team Liquid in a very rough situation. They have to make a play here. They may have to give it to the sappers and say, you know what, let them go on the bottom. We have to take 2 altars right now.
You need to go full NA at this point. You just YOLO into this, trying to find that kill. If you can make that happen, then it's over, and they know it. They just ignore the sappers. They're saying, like, guys, cover the altars, try and take the team fight. But already Eternal in a corner here. Billy moving in. Army of the Dead being popped as stuns, and down they go. The front line eliminated.
Completely locked down. Couldn't even pop that Arm of the Dead. Hasselhoff's trying to retreat. Now, Raynor did take the altar in the top left corner, so Team Liquid lives to continue playing, but the 5 shots on the core here is going to be enough for Gen.G to get the win here, and they're going to tie it the series 1-1.
Fantastic performance by Gen.G, extremely well played here. And from the beginning, really controlling the map, working extremely well against all the CST that was stacked on the side of their opponent, through the Hand of Freedom, through the Celestial Attunement, making sure that the siege tactics always had value. And Liquid were looking for kills. They're going for a Rich over and over again, trying to take Hammer down, and they could never really grasp him. So well played by Gen.G, playing around those dangers and then turning it around onto their opponent.
Just gotta love how Gen.G is so composed there, especially after game number 1, suddenly being 3 levels behind, but just completely washing that away and getting ready for game on number 2. Is this team the best team to run a Sergeant Hammer composition? Because it really feels like it.
Yeah, it feels like they're the only team still willing to try. And we've seen the Tyrael adaptation come in this tournament to make sure that they can still run it. And we've seen it from other teams too. I mean, Team Dignitas has been willing to do it too, but it's always a risk. For Team Liquid, though, there was so much focus on that Sergeant Hammer, and it just was not working for them. But yet, what do you turn to in those moments?
I mean, for me, my first thought is always the Tyrael in that problem. I just go, well, if I can't get onto the hammer, who is the biggest person going to be able to save that? And we talked about the Aurel, unrealistic to be able to get that. Not only more consistent of a gap closer, but double the disengage. And an Ardent Defender if things get really, really hairy. Whereas you can say, well, Sanctification as well. But what? You can interrupt Sanctification. You can't do that with Ardent Defender. Not only that, it's a lot easier. The animation is slow. And if he uses that just for himself, that means that's a dead hammer 5 seconds later.
Yeah, but those interrupts get harder to do when you don't have Sundering. We got Earthquake instead. Yeah. Were you guys expecting that one?
I mean, once the Hyperion as a choice was made, you can definitely make the argument there when you try and force a fight over, let's say, the boss when you're going for an altar. But I feel they never really got the fight they were really looking for. They were always trying to find the engage with Arthas, with Diablo, never really flipped the switch, and then all of a sudden you have a dead Arthas right there, and it's like, well, our moment has passed.
I will say, in my opinion, that taking Earthquake was big enough to like lose that game almost, detriment. Like when you look at the composition, it's killed the hammer, but Earthquake doesn't kill the hammer at all. It doesn't help with killing the hammer. It doesn't help with the Sanctification. And that was our biggest concern coming into this draft was how are you going to get that because you need to deal with the Lightning Breath or the APOC. Doesn't matter. You need to deal with the Malfurion. And so you need that one other tool that goes when they use these combos. I don't just Sanct to go, there goes your team fight. Earthquake is pretty much doubling down on that philosophy with no interrupt capabilities whatsoever. And I personally feel like that was the difference from like having a shot in that game and not.
Right. Well, friends, it's important to keep in mind that with Gen.G coming into this, if they had lost that game, it might have just been too much to overcome the series. So instead, we got a series on our hands. It's 1-1. We're tied up. When we come back, the series continues. This is the HGC Finals.
The 2018 HGC Finals are brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Corsair, T-Mobile, Samsung SSD, and NVIDIA.